the Indomitable drifted silently into the Earth-R sector, a patch of contested space littered with cold, forgotten debris from skirmishes. Our approach was deliberate, calculated, the kind of measured pace we were known for, though not respected for. I could already hear the sneers from the Volxen and Drakthai fleets lurking in the shadows, watching us through distant, hostile eyes. To them, we were the joke. I could see the Volxen chatter in the comm logs. Outdated, slow-moving hull of junk, they laughed. Another pathetic human attempt to look relevant. And it wasn't just words. The Drakthai comms flooded with laughter as our vessel, built more for endurance than grace, took its place. They saw an old, Earth-built heavy cruiser with a sluggish turning speed and shields that should have gone out with the last decade. But as I studied our foes, I couldn't help but smile at their misunderstanding. I didn't need the Indomitable to look like much. What mattered was what she could do. "Status check," I called. Jordan Kell, my tactical officer, turned with a gleam of satisfaction in his eye. "Ready as we'll ever be, Captain." The Drakthai seemed to be shifting, assuming a perimeter, and they're watching us closely. "They think they're about to surround us," I said, watching the formation shift on the screen, as if they were schooling fish moving in for the kill. "Let them think it." This time it was Talia Vega, our chief engineer, who spoke up. She was hunched over the main systems panel, her fingers dancing along her custom-installed controls. "If they think we're an easy catch, they'll close in fast." I glanced her way, and she met my gaze with a grin. Talia had a knack for looking beyond what things seemed to be on the surface. She saw the Indomitable as a set of infinite variables, pieces to shape and adapt to her will. Today, she'd need every ounce of that ingenuity. "All stations, hold positions," and Talia, I paused, ensuring she heard the weight in my voice. "Get ready." Her fingers didn't stop moving. "Ready as ever, Captain. I'll be here with my surprise when you need it." I leaned back and gave the go-ahead. "Kell, let's see what they've got." It didn't take long. With a flash on the radar, the Drakthai ships started to move. First in singles, small scout ships testing the waters, looking for our reaction. I kept us steady, as if we didn't even notice them. And that's when the Volxen decided to make their appearance, swinging in from the dark side of a derelict moon, shining in polished gold, their ships sleek and fast, a hallmark of the Volxen pride. "Drakthai and Volxen together," muttered Jordan. "They're circling us like we're the easy kill of the day." "They haven't seen you and me in action before," I said, shifting forward. "Let's give them a taste." Kell's hands flashed over his panel, deploying our first line of countermeasures, a simple move to deflect any tracking attempts. If the aliens thought we were sluggish, this would show them otherwise. As the Drakthai closed in, I could see their hesitations on the scan. They wanted to test our shields, so I let them timing it just right, so their scanners would pick up faint energy readings. "On my signal," I called to Talia, waiting until the Drakthai ships formed up for what they thought would be an easy forward attack. "Now." In one fluid motion, Talia unleashed a calculated burst from our shields. The feedback, timed perfectly, overloaded the Drakthai scanning systems, frying their radar on impact. The Drakthai ships wobbled as if confused, swinging wide in confusion. That's when we saw the Volxen shift, moving in at top speed. "Captain," Jordan's voice was sharp, focused. "The Volxen are moving in with speed. They're armed." I leaned forward, watching as the Volxen approached in a tight, deadly wedge, intending to break us down with force. "They think they're getting the jump on us." "That's what they think," Talia said, a hint of pride in her voice. "Prepare the concealed turrets," I ordered, my voice low, feeling the familiar pulse of adrenaline rise. "Kell, position us on a rotation. I want them to think we're barely holding on." With a grin, Kell complied, sending the Indomitable into a slow, tilting rotation as if we were losing control. The Volxen saw the roll and came barreling forward, every single ship aligned in a lethal arc, weapons hot. "Volxen ships closing to fire," called out Kell. "Steady," I replied, waiting until the moment was right. "Steady?" And then they entered range. "All turrets," I barked, And Kel didn't waste a second. Talia's concealed turrets burst from the hull with lightning precision, firing energy bolts that crackled through the dark. Vulcan ships jolted from the surprise assault, their formation scattering as they attempted to dodge the unexpected onslaught. "Beautiful work, Talia," I said, watching as she tracked their movements, expertly guiding our automated weapons to follow the Vulcan as they scrambled for escape. "Did you expect any less?" Talia grinned, fingers flying as she reconfigured the energy flow to maximize our turret's output. The Vulcan, no longer laughing, started firing at us in blind panic. Explosions echoed through the hull as energy blasts glanced off the shields, yet the modifications held. The Indomitable might have been slow, but we were far from defenseless. Just then, a flash of movement caught my eye on the sensors. A Drakthai squadron was approaching 3 ships, small but fast, angling toward the exposed side of our hull. "Kel, Drakthai on approach. Right flank." "On it, sir." Kel didn't miss a beat, launching counterfire as he shifted our trajectory, timing each blast with pinpoint precision. The first Drakthai ship faltered under the assault, veering out of formation, only to spiral helplessly into open space. But the others kept coming, closing in tight. "Captain, they're going to try a boarding maneuver," Kel shouted. "Talia, we're going to need something special," I called to her. "Already on it," she replied, firing up a plasma shield we'd reserved for close encounters. With a hum, it activated along our hull, a dazzling wall of superheated plasma. The Drakthai ships didn't have a chance. The first one slammed into it head-on, and the second barely had time to swerve before catching the edge. Both ships disintegrated in a bright flash, the wreckage scattering through space like glittering shards. I exhaled, realizing my hands had been clenched so tight my knuckles were white. "Kel, what's our status?" "All ships clear of immediate vicinity. Vulcan are retreating. Drakthai are down to 2 ships left," he reported, scanning the readouts. They didn't know what hit them. "Well, we're not done yet," I said. "Give the remaining ships one last message." Kel grinned and opened a channel to the remaining ships. I kept my voice calm, sending a transmission to every Drakthai and Vulcan in the area. "This is Captain Nathan Rourke of the Indomitable. Consider this your first and last warning. Humanity may be slow, but we're not easy prey. Disengage now or face the consequences." I gave the Vulcan and Drakthai ships a heartbeat, waiting to see their next move. On the monitor, I saw them veer away, shrinking to specks as they exited the Earth-R sector, clearly more than happy to leave our slow ship behind. Silence settled over the bridge, a steady hum replacing the tense air. Talia leaned back, grinning. "I'd say we made our point, Captain." I gave a nod. "That we did." And just as I was about to settle in, the comms crackled to life. A transmission from Earth Command. I braced myself as the voice on the other end relayed the news. The Vulcan and Drakthai were planning something bigger, a joint assault. They were regrouping, and they wanted revenge. "We've shown them what we're capable of, Captain," Kel said, a glint of excitement in his eyes. "Now, they'll want to break us for good." I leaned back, letting a slow smile spread across my face. "Then let them come. We'll be ready." The Indomitable hummed beneath us, a titan in the dark, ready to defend its place among the stars. We'd given them a glimpse of what humanity could do. Now, they were about to learn just how formidable slow could be. They'd laughed the first time. This time, they brought a fleet. The Vulcan were done toying with us. Now they were out for blood. "Fleet approaching," Jordan Kel reported, voice low and steady. On the screen, red blips lined up like glowing eyes in the dark. "Looks like they brought the full arsenal." I felt the pulse of tension run through the bridge. We'd surprised them in Earth-R sector, given them a glimpse of what humans were capable of. But we'd known the Vulcan would return, determined to strip us of whatever secrets they thought we held. And they were right, though I'd hoped we wouldn't need to reveal our ship's full capabilities so soon. "Talia," I called, "what's our status?" She glanced up from her console, fingers hovering over a diagnostic display. All systems running smoothly. Shields are ready, and I've made a few adjustments to the energy conduits. But Captain, they won't fall for the same tricks twice. No, I agreed. This time, we'll have to give them something they didn't see last time. Kel gave me a knowing look, his eyes gleaming with the thrill of the challenge. We could play dead, he suggested, almost casually. I arched a brow, and he shrugged. Hear me out. Volkson tactics rely on aggression, overpowering their enemies quickly. We've already taught them that underestimating us is a mistake. If we stay dead in the water and let them think we're out of options, they'll move in to finish us off. Once they're close enough, we can deploy our surprises. I liked where he was going with this. Talia, I said, can you keep the systems on low without sacrificing readiness? She flashed me a grin. The Indomitable is ready for a nap any time we need her. Just say the word. Perfect, I replied, settling into the captain's chair. Jordan, bring us to a halt and cut all unnecessary power. Give them the illusion that we're sitting ducks. With a few quick adjustments, Kel initiated a power-down sequence that left only essential systems running, rendering us almost invisible on the Volkson sensors. To them, we'd be a weak, stationary blip, barely holding power. The silence stretched as the Volkson ships drew closer. I could feel the mounting anticipation as they slipped into formation, surrounding us in a predatory ring, preparing for the kill. And as they approached, Kel's trap was set. Decoys prime. Captain, he reported. The decoys were a feat of Talia's engineering, a system of small, reflective drones designed to scramble enemy sensors, confusing them with false energy signatures. Placed strategically around the ship, they would make it impossible for the Volkson to focus their targeting. Let's give them a few ghosts, I ordered. With a subtle nod, Kel triggered the decoys. They activated in near silence, sending out shimmering bursts of energy that rippled across the space around us. Almost immediately, I saw the Volkson ships shifting, their movements halting as they tried to compensate for the erratic signals bouncing off the drones. Talia, prepare to fire concealed weapons on my mark, I said, knowing our moment was near. She flashed me a grin, her fingers already poised over the weapons panel. Weapons prime, Captain. Ready when you are. I waited, counting down in my head as the Volkson ships closed the gap, one by one. They'd tightened into a near-perfect sphere around us, exactly where we wanted them. Now. With that, Talia activated the hidden plasma turrets, sending a storm of searing energy blasts in every direction. The Volkson, caught in their tight formation, had nowhere to go. Ship after ship lit up on the screen, blooming into explosions that rocked their allies as they scrambled to break formation. Talia, keep firing, I ordered, watching the devastation unfold. The Volkson fleet, so sure of their superiority, was faltering under the sudden assault. Plasma bolts tore through their ships with precision, each blast taking out weapons and engines in a calculated rhythm. The bridge erupted into cheers as we watched the fleet scatter, but I knew better than to celebrate yet. The Volkson wouldn't give up that easily. Captain, look! Kel's voice was sharp, focused. On the screen, one of the Volkson ships had managed to break through the chaos, weaving through the debris and dodging our plasma fire. A boarding vessel. Damn it. They're coming in for a breach. All hands, I called over the intercom. Prepare for a boarding party. Kel, Talia, get down to the breach point. I'll need you both on containment. Kel was already up, grabbing his sidearm and a handheld console, his face set in grim determination. Talia grabbed her tool belt, throwing me a quick salute as she followed him out of the bridge. I stayed at the helm, monitoring the remaining Volkson ships, making sure none dared to get any closer. Down in the lower decks, Kel and Talia arrived at the breach point just as the Volkson ship clamped onto her hull with a metallic thunk. Kel activated the containment field, sealing the area, while Talia began working on a backup defense in case the Volkson forced their way through. The metallic sound of cutting torches rang through the hull as the boarding party worked to breach the outer doors. Kel glanced over at Talia, his expression grim. "How's it looking?" She didn't look up. Give me 1 minute. I'm redirecting power to the outer hull. It'll fry them on entry if it works. Kel glanced back at the door, hearing the sounds of metal tearing and the hiss of welding torches. Talia, they're not going to wait for us. Then buy me some time. Kel, she snapped, her fingers working at a furious pace. I'm almost there. With a nod, Kel positioned himself behind a nearby bulkhead, his weapon trained on the door. Just as the Volxen torches cut through, the door slid open, and 3 Volxen soldiers stormed in. Kel fired a quick volley, taking down the first 2 before ducking behind cover as return fire seared past him. Talia's hand hit the final override, and a low hum vibrated through the hull as the outer wall glowed faintly. The remaining Volxen soldier shrieked as the redirected power surged through the metal, his suit shorting out as he collapsed to the floor, smoking. Nice work, Kel said, holstering his weapon. But there's more of them coming. I saw at least 2 squads on that ship. Talia's eyes narrowed as she scanned her toolkit, searching for anything that could help. We can try venting the area. Kel gave her a look. Without taking out the entire deck, if I isolate the emergency pressure valves, we should be able to control the vent without compromising the rest of the ship. But it's risky. He gave a tight nod. Let's do it. I'll cover you. As Talia rerouted power to the emergency ventilation system, Kel took up position by the bulkhead, ready to intercept any more Volxen. The door slid open again, and another squad rushed in, only to be met with a burst of bullets as Kel's weapon roared. I've almost got it, Talia called, her fingers flying over the control panel. With a final command, she activated the emergency vent, and the entire section depressurized with a violent hiss. The remaining Volxen soldiers were sucked out into space, their bodies tumbling into the void as the airlock sealed. Kel exhaled, running a hand through his hair. Nice work, Talia. She grinned. I'll admit, that was close. They made their way back to the bridge, where I was waiting, monitoring the fleet. The Volxen were finally pulling back, their remaining ships limping away from the Indomitable, but we'd sustained some damage. Kel, Talia, good work down there, I said. Damage report? Some hull breaches on Deck 7, Talia replied. Shields took the brunt of the assault, but we're running on reserves. We'll need repairs before we're battle-ready again. I nodded. All right, let's start repairs and regroup. We've given them a lot to think about. But they'll be back, and they won't come alone. I watched the Volxen ships disappear from the scanner. They'd come with a full fleet, determined to take us out, and they'd left with a brutal reminder of what we were capable of. Back in my quarters, the transmission from Earth Command confirmed my suspicions. The Drakthai and Volxen were planning a joint offensive. The Indomitable had become a symbol, a threat they couldn't ignore, and they were going to throw everything they had at us. But we'd be ready, because while they saw a battered, outdated warship, we knew the truth. The Indomitable still had secrets. There was no more hiding, no more tricks. We were cornered, and the galaxy was watching. This time, the Drakthai and Volxen brought everything they had. The viewscreen showed a wall of lights blinking in space, hundreds of warships, lined up in perfect, ruthless formation. The combined Drakthai and Volxen fleets hung in the dark like jagged teeth, their harsh shapes punctuated by flickers of incoming messages and movement as they locked on to our coordinates. Communications show broadcasts across the galaxy, Captain Jordan Kel reported from his console. Everyone's watching this. I'd bet every neutral sector out there is tuning in, expecting this to be our end. If that's what they're expecting, I said, my voice steely, then we're going to make sure they're sorely disappointed. I looked around the bridge, meeting the eyes of my crew one by one. Kel, with that fire of determination in his gaze, ready to die here if that's what it took. Talia Vega, her jaw set, already tapping at her console as she prepped the Indomitable systems. Each of them knew the stakes, knew that this would be a battle like none we'd faced before. And they were still here, ready to see it through. The first wave of ships broke formation, surging forward with cold, calculated speed. The Indomitable would need to rely on everything we had, every trick, every ounce of courage, and every spark of ingenuity. Talia, I said, push the engines as hard as they'll go. I want us moving like they've never seen. She shot me a quick, determined smile, her fingers already flying over her console. They'll think we're a damn fighter by the time I'm done with us, Captain. Kel gave a dry laugh. Let's see how they like the dance, and the Indomitable roared to life as Talia rerouted power, her modular engines shifting into overdrive. On the outside, we might have looked like an aging warship, but with Talia at the controls, we moved like something altogether different. The Drakthai, taken off guard by our unexpected speed, scrambled to match our erratic movements. Our larger hull should have made us a sitting target, but Talia made us glide and juke like a much smaller craft, the engine whine a constant reminder of the toll it was taking on our systems. Shields at 90%, she called out, her voice tense but steady. Pushing adaptive generators to full capacity, but they won't last forever against this kind of barrage. The first Drakthai ships reached us, a line of sleek, predatory craft closing in with their weapons glowing hot. Plasma blast peppered our shields, each hit sending shudders through the hull. The bridge rattled, and the smell of burnt circuits stung the air. Kel, now would be a good time to return the favor. Way ahead of you, Captain. Kel's fingers danced over his controls, and hidden turrets along our hull sprang to life. Plasma cannons flared, lashing out in precise bursts that struck the Drakthai craft mid-flight. Two ships erupted in blue-white explosions, tearing holes in their advancing line. The others adjusted course, but Kel was relentless, timing each volley to keep them off balance. Keep it up, Kel, I ordered. Make them work for every inch. He didn't respond, his focus completely on the weapon system. Each shot, each pulse, was calculated, shifting to new targets faster than the enemy could respond. Kel was playing the entire fleet like a well-tuned instrument, his shots hitting engines and weak points in their armor, disabling the Drakthai faster than they could advance. But the numbers game wasn't in our favor. Captain, adaptive shields dropping to 70%, Talia warned, a line of sweat glistening on her brow. At this rate, we'll be bare in 10 minutes. The combined Volxen and Drakthai forces surged forward, a wave of blinding plasma fire raining down from every angle. Even Kel couldn't keep up with the barrage, and the Indomitable shuddered under the impact. Emergency lights flickered on the bridge as panels sparked and consoles blinked erratically. Rourke, Talia's voice cut through the chaos. We're reaching engine tolerance limits. If we keep this up, we're going to burn them out completely. We don't have a choice, I replied grimly. Do whatever you have to. Push the limits. Her expression was one of barely contained resolve. She keyed in a final series of commands, and the ship lurched, the engines groaning under the strain. But we held, twisting and dodging as plasma fire streaked past us, missing by inches. For a moment, it looked like we might turn the tide. But then a massive blast rocked the hull, sending everyone staggering. Kel, report, I shouted. One of their destroyers just opened up with some kind of ion weapon. Shields are down to 40%, and the hull's starting to buckle, he replied, his voice tight. Captain, we can't take another hit like that. The Drakthai had us cornered, and they knew it. The larger ships were closing in, preparing for the kill. I made the hardest decision of my career. Talia, prepare to initiate a reactor overload. If we're going down, we'll take as many of them as we can. The crew fell silent, the weight of the order sinking in. Talia looked up, eyes wide but resolute. Understood, Captain. But it's going to take everything. No turning back if we go through with it. I nodded, feeling the gravity of it settle deep in my bones. This ship, this crew, had been through so much, and now we were on the edge of sacrificing it all. Talia, begin the process. But don't start the countdown yet. Let them see us readying the overload. Make sure it's clear enough to scare them. She set her jaw, beginning the sequence to initiate the overload. On the view screen, the enemy fleet paused, their formation faltering as they picked up on the signal. The Indomitable's reactor started to glow, energy surging through the ship's core. Warnings flared on every screen as the overload process began, creating a buildup of power that would vaporize us and everything around us if fully initiated. As expected, the sight of a reactor overload did exactly what I hoped. The Drakthai and Volxen fleets scrambled, ships peeling off as they tried to avoid the potential blast radius. Panic flashed through their lines as their admirals calculated the potential casualties if we detonated. "Captain," Kell said quietly, a hint of a smile in his voice, "they're scattering." "Good," I replied, adrenaline surging through me. "Talia, deactivate the overload and reroute power to the engines. We're getting out of here." With swift fingers, Talia terminated the sequence, channeling the stored energy into our propulsion. The Indomitable surged forward, catching the enemy fleet in disarray as we slipped through the opening we'd created. The alien ships, still reeling from the sight of our near self-destruction, scrambled to regroup, but we were already gone, disappearing into the black. It wasn't until we were clear of the battle zone, with stars stretching out in every direction, that I allowed myself to breathe. The bridge was silent, the crew stunned by what we'd just pulled off. "Damage report," I said, my voice rough with exhaustion. Talia scanned the readouts, her fingers shaking. "Hull integrity's at 50%. Engines are strained, but we should make it back to command. Adaptive shields are completely drained, though, and we've got at least a dozen critical repairs to handle." I nodded. "Understood. Cal, send word to command. Let them know the Indomitable is coming home." He grinned, despite the weariness in his eyes. "They're not going to believe it." As he sent the transmission, I leaned back, exhaustion settling into my bones. We'd faced the combined might of two of the galaxy's most ruthless species, and we'd come out alive. It wasn't luck, it was skill, grit, and sheer human defiance. I looked around the bridge, taking in the faces of my crew. Each of them bore marks of the battle scratches, bruises, burns from consoles that had overloaded. They'd been ready to lay down their lives, yet here they stood, bloodied but unbroken. "Captain," Talia said softly, "we did it. We really did it." I gave a nod. "Yeah, we did." Back at Earth Command, the reception was as intense as the battle itself had been. News of our escape had spread fast, and representatives from neutral sectors, and even some former alien sympathizers had come to watch our arrival. The Indomitable docked amidst a barrage of cheers, respect, and cautious awe. As we disembarked, Command's admiral greeted me, her expression a mixture of admiration and disbelief. "Captain Rourke, you've done something extraordinary. Your ship and your crew have shown the galaxy what humanity is capable of." I inclined my head, humbled by the praise, but still processing the weight of what we'd survived. "We just did what had to be done, Admiral." She nodded, a faint smile on her lips. "Maybe, but you've shifted the balance. The Drakthai and Volxen fleets are retreating. They know that humanity won't be an easy target. This will change everything." As I looked at the gathered crowd, I felt a deep sense of pride for my crew, my ship, and everything we'd endured. This wasn't just a victory for us, it was a message to the galaxy. Humanity wasn't just another race to be conquered. We were resilient, resourceful, and we wouldn't back down. "Permission to speak freely, Admiral?" "Granted, Captain. We didn't win today because we were the strongest. We won because we were willing to give everything, to face the impossible and make it possible. If they come for us again, we'll be ready, and we'll prove once more that humanity doesn't give up." The Admiral's smile widened. "Well said, Captain. You and your crew have set a new standard. Welcome home." As I stood on the deck, watching the crew exchange smiles and laughter, basking in the hard-earned peace, I knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had seen us now, had seen what humanity could do. And though we'd bear the scars of that final reckoning for years to come, we'd proven ourselves. The Indomitable had cemented its place in history, and our spirit would never be forgotten.